This is a short video I want to do on these Jbl LE15 speakers. These are out of one of my Paragons that I'm working on. These drivers are very interesting because they use a surround called a lansalloy surround. Now there's a pair here on the left, and this is a totally original pair. And there's a pair here on the right. And they're actually still original, other than just this surround, which is this part right here. I had them redone by a place here in Dallas called Freeman Speaker. They've done just dozens of these things for me over the years, but this is the first time I've ever put a video to this to try and explain what a lot of these things do. So even though you look at this original LE15 out of a speaker, and by the way, LE15 is an Alnico magnet driver. They made two versions of drivers for the Paragon, which are the 154C, which are the early drivers, which is considered a more desirable driver than the LE15. But the LE15 really overall is a better performer and is a newer driver. It's the same as the 2215, which is just a different, same speaker, different number. Essentially what we're dealing with there. And the 2215s were used in some of more of the commercial apps. But at the high-end speakers you will see the LE15s in are going to be the Paragon, the S8R speakers like a Sovereign or Olympus, and a few other speakers out there too. And even I believe the Paragon has one in there too, and the later versions of that. But so even though these speakers look essentially almost perfect, they're absolutely sonically horrible right now. You will have no low end, no bass, probably below 100 hertz. It probably doesn't even exist. It's just, what happens is this surround here is called lansalloy surround, and you know, that's a play on words, I guess, for their design. It's a Lansing alloy, lansalloy or whatever they put together. And when these things were new, this was a very, very pliable, kind of a rubbery, foamish type material. And it was probably great, and it has been great. And what happens over the years is these things become hard as a rock. You can see I'm pushing on it. Now watch if I try and articulate this driver to where, you know, it would be playing some real low frequency here. Can't even move it. I literally will break it before I do it. Now, if I go over here, this one moves quite freely. And I come in from the back side, you can see it go up and down, and you can see the surrounds articulate there. And I try that even from the lower on this, you can't move it. There's no movement at all, zero. And so if you get an old speaker like a S8R, or you're lucky enough to get a Paragon, and you think it's working okay, and you think that poppy, no bass sound is the way it's supposed to be, well, it's not. And this is the reason why, right here. These things are, they need to be reconed, or not reconed, but they need to be resurrounded. And that's still keeping the driver original. You know, it probably would be better, and some of these that are really nice like this, I just changed the surrounds on them, and they still are good. I mean, you can argue that you can recharge the magnets on them, and that's a good thing, and putting even a new entire cone on it, and it will be a better driver for that matter. But on these particular ones, I'm going to keep them original because they are nice, and just change the surrounds. So that's kind of what happens with these. And this pair over here actually is just a spare pair I've had for years, and I put them in a Paragon for a while. It takes me a couple weeks, even a month to get these done, and then I'll change it back to the ones that came with it, the serial numbers. These are actually consecutive, believe it or not. This is a 18375. The other one here is 376. These are just not consecutive. But not that matters, but that's kind of original. And these drivers were made, from the 60s till probably the late 70s, in that era. And there's an earlier version that had some blue paint on it, and they were painted blue. In fact, my Paragon that I have kept for years has the blue drivers, blue LE15s in it. And there's no difference in this one, that one over there, or the blue ones. It's just the earlier ones had blue paint on it. So Nothing special about that other than the fact that they're blue, and that kind of identifies about 2 years of build, which I believe may have been 63 and 64, but I'm not certain on that. But it's around that time frame. That's kind of it. And so one of the other subjects I wanted to touch on here real quick is some people want to keep these original. And I have done it too over the years. It's called the brake fluid treatment, literally automotive brake fluid. You use .3 brake fluid, and you can use a eyedropper, and you do it turned over, like this one is the way I do it. And you reach down in here with the eyedropper, and you just put a little drop of brake fluid, probably every inch or so on that surround. And you let it sit overnight, maybe even a couple of days, and even a week for that matter. And what it does is that brake fluid will absorb into this rubber, and it will literally free it up and make it move like it's brand new again. And that sounds all nice and wonderful. And when I started discovering that many, many years ago, I thought it was great too. But usually within 6 months or less, it will start hardening up again. And once it starts hardening up, it gets even worse. And then that's when they'll start cracking. So it's a very temporary fix. And if you have a set of these and you just want to see how they'll sound, there's no harm in doing it as long as you don't bleed the brake fluid into the paper cone. And that's happened before, and it will happen again. So just be careful when you do that. But that's a temporary fix, and I wish it was more permanent, but it's not. And like I said, years ago, probably 20 years ago, when I first started doing that, I thought it was the greatest thing I ever discovered. I can fix every LE15 in the world and keep them original just by doing that, but it does not last. So the best thing to do is just put the newer surrounds on it like this. And any good speaker company can do that. And Dallas's Freeman tool speaker, they've been around for years, and they've done a lot of these. And if I did an LE15, or excuse me, a 154C, if I ever recone those, I send those up to Vancouver, just because they have the credibility and knowledge of working on those, and that's a little bit more valuable speakers. And a good set of LE15s is probably worth maybe $1,500 to $2,000 at the most, but a good set of 154Cs are $6,000-$7,000, maybe even more in some cases. But then again, they all sound pretty darn good no matter what. It's just more of the collector value stuff there. That's it.